Welcome to AI Assembled, the top AI news for small business. I'm Chris Doelle, and each week I bring you the most important AI developments that can transform your business. Let's dive into this week's top stories.
Welcome to AI Assembled for Monday, March 30th, 2026. I'm James, and this week, the AI industry delivered some of its most consequential news yet for small businesses. A surprise shutdown, a landmark court verdict, a revenue milestone that signals where advertising is heading and signals about where AI itself is going over the next 12 months. Let's get into it. We begin with a story that is really about something larger than one product: the abrupt shutdown of OpenAI's Sora video app. On Tuesday, March 24th, OpenAI announced it was discontinuing Sora, a TikTok-style AI video social network it had launched just 6 months earlier in September 2025. No warning, no migration path, just a message from the official account. "We're saying goodbye to the Sora app." The numbers behind the decision tell the story quickly. Sora peaked at 3.3 million app downloads in November 2025. By February, that had fallen to 1.1 million. The app generated roughly $2.1 million in lifetime in-app purchase revenue, a rounding error against the estimated $1 million per day in compute costs it was burning. The math simply did not work, and the collateral damage was significant. Disney had pledged a $1 billion investment and a licensing deal giving Sora access to characters from Disney, Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars. That deal never closed, and now it is gone. The web and mobile app goes dark on April 26th. The API follows on September 24th. OpenAI is pivoting compute toward a project internally called SPUD, a unified super app that brings together ChatGPT, Codex, and Atlas, with video generation tucked behind the ChatGPT paywall rather than as a standalone destination. The lesson for small businesses is one that no one enjoys hearing, but everyone needs to hear. Platform risk is real, and it can move at AI speed. If you built any part of your content workflow around Sora, if you were planning to, you now have no migration path and a tight deadline on the API. That is not a hypothetical warning. That is what happened to real users this week. The rule going forward is straightforward. Never let a single AI vendor feature become a single point of failure in your business. For every AI tool that touches a revenue-generating workflow, know your alternatives before you need them. Document your process. Maintain your assets independently. Because the next shutdown announcement may be the one that actually hits you.
On Wednesday, March 25th, a Los Angeles jury delivered what legal experts are calling the most consequential social media verdict in history. After more than 40 hours of deliberation, the jury found Meta and Google liable for the mental health struggles of a young woman who began using Instagram and YouTube as a small child. The jury concluded that both platforms were deliberately designed with features that exploit the developing brains of children and teenagers, making this the first time in American legal history that social media applications have been classified as defective products. The damages award totals $6 million. $3 million is compensatory, $3 million is punitive. Meta bears 70% of the liability, roughly $4.2 million, and Google carries the remaining 30%. Those numbers sound modest for companies that collectively generate hundreds of billions in annual revenue. But the significance of this verdict has almost nothing to do with the dollar amount. It has everything to do with the legal theory the jury accepted. By ruling that Instagram and YouTube are defective by design, not just that harmful content appeared on them, the verdict sidesteps the federal liability shields that have protected social media companies for decades. If that legal theory holds through appeals, it opens a floodgate. There are more than 2,000 consolidated cases waiting behind this one. For small businesses, there are 3 things worth watching closely. First, platform behavior is going to change. Meta and Google will redesign algorithmic features under the pressure of this ruling, and those redesigns will affect organic reach and ad delivery in ways that are difficult to predict right now. Second, if you are heavily concentrated on either platform for customer acquisition, this week is a reasonable moment to ask how diversified your marketing strategy really is. A legal process that takes 2 to 3 years to settle can reshape ad products quietly while you are not looking. Third, and perhaps most practically, if your business markets to any audience that includes minors or young adults, and for most consumer-facing businesses, it does, pay attention to how your ad targeting guidelines evolve over the next 18 months. The industry is being watched more carefully than at any point in the last decade, and the compliance requirements are going to follow.
Here is the number that made advertising professionals stop and recalculate their plans this week. $100 million in annualized revenue. That is what OpenAI's ChatGPT advertising pilot crossed in just 6 weeks since launching in the United States in January 2026. Reuters confirmed the figure Thursday through an OpenAI spokesperson, making it one of the fastest ad revenue ramp-ups in the history of digital advertising. The pilot now includes over 600 advertisers. OpenAI reported that nearly 80% of small and medium-sized businesses shown the program have signaled interest in participating, which is a striking data point given that most SMBs have no current path in. The minimum spend is $200,000. The CPM is $60, roughly 3 times what Meta charges. This is enterprise territory right now. But that is changing. OpenAI confirmed it will launch self-serve advertiser capabilities in April. When that happens, the access equation shifts meaningfully for smaller advertisers. The platform reaches 900 million weekly active users, more than twice the monthly active user base of Instagram, and, unlike a scroll feed, those users are actively asking questions when they see an ad. The format is contextual by definition. The click-through rate sits at 0.91%, well below Google's 6.4% benchmark, which tells you this channel is still learning. But low CTR at launch is normal for any new format, while targeting and creative best practices are still being established. The hire of David Dugan, formerly Meta's Vice President of Global Advertising Clients, to lead OpenAI's Global Ad Solutions team suggests this is a long-term, seriously resourced bet. What should a small business do right now? 3 things. First, understand that within 18 months, ChatGPT advertising will likely be accessible at SMB-friendly minimums. Start building your presence in conversational contexts now so you understand how your brand sounds in a question-and-answer format. Second, pay attention to the self-serve launch in April. It may be more accessible than expected. Third, remember that the users on ChatGPT are engaged and intentional. When the door opens, those will be among the highest quality ad impressions available anywhere.
While the Sora story dominated headlines, a quieter but equally important shift happened this week in the professional AI market. Bloomberg reported on Friday, March 27th, that Anthropic is in early discussions with advisors about a potential IPO, possibly as soon as October 2026. That may sound like a Wall Street story, but the underlying data point that accompanies it is the one that matters most to every business owner listening. RAMP's March AI Index, which tracks how businesses actually spend their software dollars, found that approximately 1 in 4 businesses is now paying for Anthropic's Claude. That is up from roughly 1 in 25 just 12 months ago. To put that differently, Claude went from a niche technical tool to mainstream enterprise software in a single year, with a 25-fold increase in paying business adoption. The broader picture behind that number is equally striking. In March alone, Anthropic pushed out 14 significant product updates. The Model Context Protocol, the open standard that lets AI agents connect to software tools, crossed 97 million installations. That is the connective tissue of the agent economy, and it is being adopted at a pace that suggests the infrastructure for AI automated workflows is normalizing faster than most analysts predicted. What does an Anthropic IPO mean practically? First, it signals that the professional AI market is maturing from an experiment into a durable industry. The companies that go public establish pricing power, raise switching costs, and gain resources to accelerate product development. That is a reason to evaluate your AI vendor relationships now, while you still have negotiating leverage and before the best pricing windows close. Second, when a major AI provider goes public, transparency requirements increase, which is generally good for business customers. You will have better insight into stability, financials, and roadmap. Third, the pace of Claude adoption tells you something important about where the professional market is landing. If you have not evaluated Claude alongside ChatGPT for your business-critical workflows, the data suggests you are in the minority, and the gap is widening every month.
Beyond the 3 headline stories this week, the underlying AI model landscape continued to evolve in ways that are directly relevant to your operational costs and privacy posture. 2 developments deserve your attention. The first is Mistral's release of Small 4, a 22 billion parameter open source model that outperforms several closed commercial models 3 to 5 times its size in benchmark testing. More importantly for small businesses, it is efficient enough to run on consumer-grade hardware, which means a business with even modest technical resources can run a capable AI model entirely in-house, with no data leaving the premises and no recurring API costs. For businesses in regulated industries, healthcare, legal, financial services, or any business that handles sensitive customer data, that changes the calculus on AI adoption significantly. The second is the continued normalization of the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. With 97 million installs confirmed this month, MCP is rapidly becoming the standard way that AI agents connect to business software. What that means practically is that the agents you build today, or buy from vendors today, should be integrating with your CRM, your accounting software, your customer service tools, through MCP rather than custom connectors. If an AI vendor you are evaluating does not support MCP, ask them directly when they plan to. The standard is here, and it is not optional anymore. Both of these developments share a common thread. They lower the cost and raise the capability floor for small businesses willing to engage seriously with AI infrastructure. The tools available to a 5-person operation in March 2026 are genuinely comparable to what only enterprise teams could access 12 months ago. If you are not sure where your business stands in the AI readiness spectrum, whether you are ready to implement these tools, still evaluating, or somewhere in between, there is a free assessment built specifically for small businesses that takes about 5 minutes. Go to freshmediaworks.com/AI checklist. It is the fastest way to identify your gaps and your next move. The URL again, freshmediaworks.com/AI checklist.
Let us close this week with the clearest action picture we can draw from a week that was genuinely full of signal. The Sora shutdown is not a story about one product failing. It is a case study in platform dependency. Any small business that had built a video workflow around Sora, or was planning to, received no warning, no migration support, and a hard deadline. The lesson is not to avoid AI tools. It is to treat any vendor-specific feature that touches a revenue workflow as a risk that needs a documented fallback. Know your alternatives before you need them. The Meta and YouTube verdict does not mean those platforms are collapsing. it means the legal and regulatory environment around them is entering a multi-year transition. If you are heavily concentrated on either platform for customer acquisition, this verdict is a reasonable prompt to audit that dependency. Diversification does not mean abandoning what works. It means not betting everything on platforms that are navigating the most consequential legal scrutiny in their history. The ChatGPT advertising milestone is important context, not a current opportunity for most SMBs. The $100 million figure and the self-serve launch coming in April are signals to watch and prepare for, not bills to pay today. Start understanding what your brand messaging sounds like in a conversational format. That preparation costs nothing and positions you well when the access widens. The Anthropic IPO discussion and the Claude adoption data tell you the professional AI market is consolidating fast. Vendor relationships that feel interchangeable today may not feel that way in 12 months. Evaluate your AI stack now, while competition between providers is still keeping prices competitive and capabilities moving fast. And if you have not yet checked where your business stands on AI readiness, start there. It is free, it takes 5 minutes, and it is the most direct action you can take today. Go to freshmediaworks.com AI checklist. This is AI assembled for the week of March 23rd through 29th, 2026. I'm Alice. Thank you for being here. We will see you next Monday.
That's it for this week's AI Assembled, the top AI news for small business. If you found this valuable, share it with a fellow business owner. If you want a hands-on group that you can work with on your specific AI needs, consider joining Business Success Academy at freshmediaworks.com/BSA. Until next week, keep innovating and keep it real.